Hello everyone, welcome to another video, and for today something a little bit different. We're back on Race Room, but this time it's not for a race. Instead, I wanted to share a few tips that have really helped me develop as a driver in this sim over the past few months. Now, generally on this channel I try to focus on race videos rather than giving out advice, but I have made a few simple changes to the way I approach sim racing over the past 10 or 12 weeks, and it's really made a huge difference to my results, particularly in Race Room. I've just finished my first year of sim racing, and for the vast majority of that time my Race Room rating has hovered pretty consistently between 1500 and 1600. However, so far this year I've had a really good run of form and my rating is now higher than ever at 1750. Several of you have asked what I've been doing differently to improve these results, so I thought I'd share it with you. But before we start, a few points to make quickly. Firstly, these aren't tips to improve your driving technique or your racecraft. It's more about preparation for sim racing. Secondly, if you're an experienced sim racer, you probably won't hear anything that you don't know already. This is more to help the guys just starting out on their sim racing journey, just like me over the past year. Finally, it's always worth remembering that what works for me might not work for you. These tips are based purely on my own personal experience, and they've worked for me. But that's enough of the talking. Let's get down to it. Number 1, customize your field of view settings. I never appreciated what a huge difference this makes until I finally got around to doing it at the end of the year, and I wish I'd done it sooner. I started by moving my wheel and pedals closer to the monitor. I'm just going to pop up a picture of how I used to have my rig. Now look how far away my head would be from the monitor. It's the best part of 2 meters. Now that's way too far away, so I decided to swap my desks around so I could move my pedals under the monitor. That brought me so much closer to the screen. Here's my new setup, and my head now is around 60 centimeters away from the monitor, which lets us take full advantage of Race Room's field of view settings. Now, I'm ashamed to say that I never even knew these settings existed before I moved my desk, but during a session all you need to do is click on options and then navigate your way over to the field of view tab. Here's where you can customize absolutely everything you'll need. Starting with the screen size, you'll see that I've set mine at 32 inches to match my monitor size. Then you can set your distance to screen. You can see at the moment this one is at 90 centimeters, so I'm just going to slide that down to 60 centimeters, reflecting where I've got my seat now. Then you can tinker with these 2 bottom settings, head height offset and cockpit camera pitch. However, I prefer to visualize it, so I click on enter calibration mode. That brings up your cockpit, and here's where you can do all the fine tuning that you need. If you're not quite 100% happy with your position in the cockpit, you can always tweak the screen size or distance to screen options. Just by toggling it a little bit will show you the difference that it makes zooming in or out. We're just adjusting the screen size now. I'll put it back to 32. I like to keep that consistent with my 32-inch monitor. But yeah, distance to screen does exactly the same thing. You can move it in and out. But again, I'll try and keep this as accurate as possible and get it back to that 60 centimeter distance that I'm currently working with. Next up, you can start playing around with the head height offset and the cockpit camera pitch. I find it much easier using these when you can actually visualize the changes that it makes. Now, generally, I like to sit up higher in the cockpit, so I'll move the camera up and then tilt it downwards. I find it gives me a slightly better view of the track ahead. But of course, this is purely down to personal preference. I know plenty of drivers who like to sit low in the cockpit. But now I've just started using the click and drag option on the left of the screen. When you use your mouse there, hold the button down, you can move left or right, up or down to also decide what view is best for you. It took me a good few goes to find the type of setting that I was most comfortable with, and of course it can vary between car. So now before any race in Race Room, I always make a point to set aside a couple of minutes just to make sure I'm happy with my field of view settings. Right, let's get back out on track and we can see how it looks. Now, I did mention earlier in the video that I wasn't even aware these settings existed for the best part of the last year, so I'm hugely grateful to Nidge Woodcut who pointed it out to me and gave me a quick tutorial, because it has made a world of difference. These settings combined with my new seat position makes it so much easier to anticipate apexes, hold your line and generally be faster through these corners. The end result is a smoother and more consistent lap, and that's really benefited me. Oh, a bit of a lock up there as we enter this sharp left-hander, which brings me neatly to tip number 2. Adjust your brake pedal calibration. We've all done it. You're charging down the long straightaway, you hammer the brakes, you lock up, and then you just leave two big black marks on the track. You can't turn, you're a passenger, and you end up in the barrier. I've done it more than most, believe me. However, just by making a quick and simple change to my brake pedal calibration has dramatically reduced the number of times I lock up. Now, I use the Thrustmaster TLCM pedals, so I opened up Thrustmaster's pedal calibration software and simply increased the amount of brake force until it became much harder to reach 100% braking by pressing down the pedal. Look at the purple bar. I've got my foot fairly hard on the pedal now and it's hovering around 80%. That's the sweet spot. For me, I generally find that if I keep my braking at around 80%, I don't normally lock up. However, when I really push hard on the pedal, I can still get it up to 100% if needs be. But my main goal here was to find a comfortable pressure point on the pedal and have that as an input of around about 80%. Now, it's highly likely that you might be using different pedals, so it's worth checking to see what calibration software you can download for them. For example, I started out using a Logitech G920 wheel and pedals, and I could have done the same changes in Logitech's G-Hub software. So it's definitely worth investigating. I'd highly recommend giving it a try and seeing if it works for you. But let's hop on board and see it work in action. Keep your eye on the pedal inputs in the bottom right of the screen. We're approaching the braking zone. We're hard on the brakes. And as you can see, the pedal inputs stay at around 80%. We don't lock up. And we're able to make this first chicane at Monza cleanly with no lockups, no big clouds of smoke, and no crashes. Number 3, concentrate on improving your qualifying. I know, it's far easier said than done to put it on the front row time and time again, but the further up the grid you can qualify, the less likely you are to get caught up in the mid-pack melee. You only need to go back and watch some of the old Race Room Rank videos that I posted on the channel throughout 2021 and you'll soon lose count of the amount of times that I had my race ruined within the first lap, often within the first corner. And the longer it goes on, the more it saps your confidence. Sometimes you just find that you're going from race to race and jumping from one disaster to the next. So a few months ago, I decided that I'd had enough and I put all my efforts into improving my qualifying performance. It's actually easier than ever to do in Race Room now because the vast majority of ranked servers offer private qualifying. You're not on the track with anyone else, so it's effectively a hot lap environment. And slowly but surely my one lap pace started to improve. I began to see qualifying performances improve too. When I was once qualifying 12th, 13th or 14th on the grid, they started becoming 8th, 9th and 10ths. So I kept working at it and no doubt buoyed by the two changes we've already discussed on this video, the field of view settings and the brake pedal calibration. I'm now starting to qualify near to the front row and occasionally, as evidenced in this video, on pole position. It really does put you in far better shape for the start of the race. You're much less likely to encounter the types of danger that can ruin a race, particularly in the rookie servers on Race Room. So there we have it. In answer to the question that some of you have asked, those 3 things are what I'm doing differently to achieve better results in Race Room. These tips may work for you or they may not, but feel free to give them a try and do let me know how you get on. Please also feel free to share any other tips you may have for aspiring Race Room racers. And if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. I'm always happy to hear from you and I'll help if I can. Thanks for watching and good luck with your racing, guys. Cheers for now.